Hello, hello.
Hey.
I am not sure if StreamYard was getting a little wonky for everyone. I know it was getting a little wonky for me and cutting out. So apologies for that. But
The
I am
show
Scott
must go
Stone.
on. The show must go on. Yes.
Randall, yes. I
Hi, Scott.
am. How you doing, Randall?
I'm doing fine. Hi. Sorry, I'm interrupting when you're
I heard
trying
you're
to
starting
talk.
a new job.
I can't say that yet.
You can't say that yet. Never mind. I did not say that.
That's something we discuss ahead of the show, not during the show.
Okay.
It's okay.
Alrighty then. There are a number of great projects going on that everyone is so caught up in. Simon hopefully will be able to join us a little bit later today. I did just talk to Yaron. He's not going to be able to make it because he's running around doing errands for work. Unfortunately, Nawal also has been dragged away today. Flutter is getting really busy.
Yes, that's
really
good.
Busy. So
that's good. Good for the industry. Good for us.
Finding things a bit further ahead.
Yeah. I'd be happy to hear that. I never get to introduce myself at the beginning of these shows because I'm always brought on in the middle. So I just want to introduce myself at the beginning of this show for a change.
That's a good point.
I'm Randall Schwartz. I've been in the industry for 40 years, and I have I feel old sometimes. And I've been a GDE since for Flutter and Dart specifically, a Google developer expert since before they had Dart and Flutter GDEs. I was given the web title initially, even though that isn't what they interviewed me for. So
basically, you transferred laterally from a web GDE to a Flutter GDE.
Well, yeah.
How do you like that job change?
No, it wasn't a change. It was just a title change.
Yeah, they don't pay you, do they?
No. I'm essentially an unpaid DevRel. So my job is to hang out with the community and hang out with all the new things and cool stuff that's happening in the community and what's happening with Google and the new releases and everything. There was a new release today. I'm now running Dart 2.14. Woohoo!
Nice.
Woohoo! It just came out today, this morning. I downloaded it and did Dart test version, and there it is. So yes, I'm on the dev channel though. So, and my job to finish that up is to basically be a liaison. In other words, to identify problems people are having and try to make sure that if they're having problems that can't be resolved by me or one of the other smart people, the actual smart people, then to file issues so that Google can know what's important to work on and what's important to put in the game plan. And so I'm basically that back and forth. And to that, I'm spending about 2 or 3 hours a day going through all your Stack Overflow, all your Reddits, a lot of time on Discord, a lot of time on the Flutter community chat channels for Slack. So I'm everywhere, and I have to be everywhere.
Now, I'm going to do something very mean. Okay. It's horrible, terrible of me. Randall, you do realize that when you enter questions on Stack Overflow, there are a number of likes, there are a number of comments, things like that. So you know how many people it reaches.
Yes.
As a GDE, you're supposed to document your reach and your ongoing reach, which means really you should be keeping a spreadsheet of every single Stack Overflow question you answer and how many likes it gets. And of course, you're going to have to update this once a week.
It takes even more time.
Watch Randall cry.
No. Actually, I don't have to because there are already automated tools to look at Stack Overflow and Reddit and a few other places. So we as GDEs just nearly make mention of it in our monthly reports, but that's about it. And but all the rest of the places that I've been on, including I think since 2 weeks ago, which is the last time we had a show here, I think I've been on 6 different GDGs all around the world. 3 in Africa and DC and Vancouver last night with Kevmo last night. That was fun. So I'm basically signing up for every possible Flutter GDG there is. And it's because I enjoy hanging out with people. I enjoy hearing what they're working on. I enjoy being a bit of an expert for the Q&A session at the end. So that's been great. That's been a lot of fun. So, but it is starting to cut into my actual, day job schedule. So I have to be a little careful.
You've got to watch that. Actually, And any of you who have been around New York City would know Nietzsche. And Nietzsche is a big believer in knowing when to say when.
Yeah.
And when it comes to speaking and doing community work, and all, that was one of the big things that she warned me about a couple years ago. Is you've got to know when to say when, because otherwise it will take over your life. But to wrap this up real quick, a lot of times I hear people saying, "I want to be a GDE. I want to be a GDE. What do I do to be a GDE?" It doesn't work like that. Okay, GDE this is the way it really works. You go around helping people out. You go around on Stack Overflow. You go around making YouTube videos. Okay, you go speak at meetup groups. You speak at big conferences. You write articles. You have what's called reach. Okay, and you reach people. You help people. You are someone that the community knows and sees. And Google has GDEs in just about every field. And one of these GDEs will hopefully notice your work and they'll say, "Hey, you should apply." And then they give you the super secret link that goes to the application for GDE, which you're not supposed to even be able to get unless you've been invited, because you have to have a GDE, a current GDE sponsor you, or not really sponsor you so much as recommend you.
More than that, I think it actually still needs to be an employee unless they change that.
Not that I'm aware of. It should just be a GDE.
Well, okay, I think that might get you.
As I know.
But I think there still needs to be a Google employee that actually effectively sponsors you. So the GDE can recommend you into the program, but somebody inside Google has to also say, "Let's go." For me, that was Wim Leeler when he was doing DevRel for Flutter and living in Portland, which is my hometown. That's where I'm at right now. And the sun in Oregon keeps going back and forth. Can't decide whether it's behind the clouds or not behind the clouds. So my lighting is all screwed up again, as it usually is here.
Okay. Well, hey, just to wrap up the whole GDE thing, what it really is, okay, Google looks at what you're doing, which is unpaid developer relations. That was not for you, Google.
Let me know.
Hey, Google. Mute yourself.
Lovely. Siri, tell Google to shut up.
Basically. Gotta love it, right? Hey, I actually use the technology.
Yes,
as you can now tell. I turned off everything but that. So anyway, what you're really doing, it is in effect unpaid technical evangelism, unpaid DevRel, but Google thinks you're doing such a great job that they turn around and say, "Hey, you know, this is someone who we think is good."
And more than that, enthusiastic. It's a bit of a sales job too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only real reward that you get, the only real big perks are getting together with other GDEs, which is a lot of fun. And the other thing is that when you are needed at events in person, Google will cover a lot of the travel. You don't get to fly first class. I wish. Things like that. But
you get to hang on the
anyway.
way.
Yeah, hopefully my GDE will be approved soon.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yes.
I keep telling myself I'm going to submit it, but then I've got this other talk coming and this other talk coming. Now I've got a talk coming up at the Rochester Institute of Technology. And I'm like, I want to wait until I have that one on my resume.
Yeah.
It never ends. Enough of that.
If it did ever
enough
end,
of that.
Do we need to go through the code of conduct stuff again, or?
Yeah, we probably should do the code of conduct. That's not a bad idea.
Since this is a semi-blessed event of Google itself, they want us. They have certain standards for us. Yeah.
Let's just say they don't endorse us. They don't officially sponsor or anything like that. They just send us cool shirts.
Yeah, that's true. Mine's about 2 hours drive north from here, so I can't hold it up right now.
All righty. So do's and don'ts. Be nice. Be respectful. Be constructive. Look, folks, simple. Okay. Don't treat anyone here any worse than you would treat some stranger you walk up to on the street. It's really that easy. Don't post anything that's adult content, rude, offensive statements, blah, blah, blah. I mean, come on, don't be a child. Don't advertise or promote anything. This is not the place for you to be saying your stuff is the greatest in the world. Don't spam the same question over and over. That's the one that we do seem to get an awful lot of. And your question will get ignored for doing that. Yeah. So just ask a question. We're looking at the chat right now. Okay. Mr. Reality, yes. Drew Meal, hey, buddy. Okay. Harsh, I don't know what you mean by helping you with a doubt. We're not in that kind of a business. Hello, everyone. Hello from Kenya. Hello to Kenya. Oh, yes. Ganesh, the old hump days. Sahid, if you know how to get some goodies, send some to me.
These won't make any sense without having to put the questions.
Yeah, you've got to be reading the YouTube chat. Okay?
Yeah, which is going to be a little weird.
Flutter on an ARM64 Chromebook. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
proceeding with Q. What the future holds for Flutter Web? A whole lot of good stuff because a whole lot of big companies are working with it right now. So moving back here, now that we have taken a look at the YouTube chat, harassment of any kind is not tolerated. Failing that, you'll be blocked from interacting on the chat. It's not just that, folks. Okay, you don't just get blocked from interacting on the chat. There was fairly recently someone who was a bit over the top in being hurtful, and the way they did things and where they put their comments made it very clear they were trying to they were trying to take a shot at some people. So
harassment, in other words.
Yeah, it was pretty serious harassment. Basically, all of the Flutter community was swept for that person's accounts, and they were all deleted. The Flutter community Slack, Discords, we double checked that they were not a writer on Flutter Community Medium. Otherwise, they'd have been gone there. We don't play. Okay. Now, we don't have to worry about being politically correct over every single little thing. We look at a person's intent. That's the important thing. If you happen to say a word that's innocent to you, but maybe somebody else gets a little bent out of shape, that's an opinion thing if you meant well. This person clearly did not mean well. And they basically got the dogs sent after them. So don't do it.
Let me take that question from Kang just now, because it says, he or she says, are we planning to have Flutter support for Apple M1 natively this year? I've got to tell you something first about Google. Google is a publicly traded corporation. Their forward-looking statements are subject to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. And because of that, at least for things that aren't all the way up through the COO level or CEO level, where they've absolutely realized that when they announce a future schedule, they have to commit to that as a corporate promise, which is what it is if you announce anything. So the way the Flutter team and the Dart team have been working, they've basically been saying, we can't give you dates, but everything's being done in the open. Watch our issue list, watch our burn down list for our issues. Yes. And you can get some idea of the trajectory that we're aiming for.
There is a publicly
that's all you can do.
Shown roadmap.
Yeah.
There's a public roadmap.
Yeah.
There are a number of other things. But at the same time, as Randall said, and what you need to understand is Google will turn around and they will say, we're going to do X. Now, people buy and sell stocks based on that. So if they say they're going to do X, they better be pretty darn sure that X is going to happen. And even when they're relatively sure, they try to be careful and just be extra cautious. So, but I am more than confident that they are working to make Flutter work everywhere that they can.
Yeah.
As far as timetables and things like that, Don't know. But again, the big thing about a lot of this, it's open source.
Yeah.
If the Flutter team's not taking care of the one thing that you want, go onto the forums and see if you can recruit some help.
And file the issues and
file
get
the
your
issues.
friends to thumb them up or whatever there is on GitHub.
Or make it your own project.
Start it.
You know, become the product owner of that part and take charge.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Something like
all you have to do is submit the PR, but if the PR is good code, Hixie will approve it.
Something like a third of the commits that led up to Flutter 2.0 were from the community. It was huge. The community is building this. This is no longer just a Google product, but Google's still the people who are in charge of the roadmap and things. So they're
mainly in charge of it. If you're new, they're mainly in charge of it because they invented it.
Yeah.
What they did was they opened it up to open source.
Yes.
Which means now they've got a whole lot of help that let's face it, they don't have to pay for.
That leads into Naman's question. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably mangling it anyway. I don't know. Let's see.
Here we go.
How can I contribute? You know, there's a ton of different ways to contribute. And most people don't think of this. You might be a hotshot coder, but you probably won't be able to get anything into the Flutter core that hasn't already gone through some vetting in terms of, is this important? And also there's a whole litany of things you have to go through. Like you must have tests for what you submit. The test must pass. You must not break other people's tests. There are lots of things like that. But you could definitely eventually make PRs for the core. That's fine. But there are a lot easier ways. One of them is you find something wrong with some core thing, file an issue, or see if there are other issues. And if so, star them, move them up. Because that lets the developers know, that lets the team know that this is important, not only to you, but maybe some other people. So that's important. Make doc changes. All the entire website for Flutter.dev.
Come on now. You're getting into mine.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Sorry. Do you want to?
Here's the thing. All these great things that you build are useless to people if they don't understand what in the world it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of times too, I hate to say it, but engineers write docs for engineers. They really, really do. And to give you an example, in Flutter, okay, it would be I'm not saying that this happened, but this would be as if somebody wants to look up what a row and column is. And the row and column, it says is a flex, but the flex's size is determined oftentimes by a flexible. Well, what is a flexible? You look up what a flexible is, and the flexible size is determined by the flex. Wait a minute. I thought you just said the flex was the thing. Well, there's the big capital letter F flex, and then there's the small letter F flex. The small f is the strength of the flexible, which determines the size of the big flex. And now a new person who has just come from web development or .NET is ready to light their hair on fire and run away screaming because they had one question. Now they've got 15. So a great way to contribute is if you find a confusing part of the docs, you can make a PR. You can make the change, put it in as a PR, and maybe put some comments in there and say, this is why I think this is where I got confused. If I got confused, maybe other people are getting confused. It works. Also, file issues. So, okay, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on any single one thing right now. One other thing, though, Ganesh, CFPs you're asking about for giving talks, contact GDG Regional. I'm pretty sure you know who that is, if you are the Ganesh that I think you are. But contact GDG Regional, and if you have a problem getting a hold of them, hit me up on Twitter. I'll put you in touch with them.
Let me take that one step further because I want to talk about how I've gotten to talk at all these GDG meetups. GDG.community.dev. Can you put that up on the URL bar? Yeah. GDG.community.dev is a central meeting place for all the different kinds of GDGs around the world. And originally they were totally locals. So in other words, like there'd be a Portland GDG that would have different topics every month. And sometimes that was Flutter. But because we're all virtual right now, a lot of GDGs have now become topic specific to Flutter. and I've been just taking advantage of that like crazy. So I've been signing up for every single GDG presentation that's coming up, and that's related to Flutter, and I'm hoping is in English. I don't always know. I got to be careful. I actually write the coordinators and say it's just going to be in English. If so, count me in on being in there. And so that's worked out really well. And because it's virtual, like I said, I went to 3 different places in Africa just last weekend. I mean, this was amazing. Countries I'd never been to physically. So, and then the one in DC was yesterday. No, Vancouver was yesterday. The one in Vancouver was yesterday. DC was the day before. But I've been all over the world, at least hanging out and giving help with the Q&As. And because I got a lot of A's for those Q's, it works out really nice.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay. So, only other one we hear a lot of times, how do I go from beginner to intermediate or advanced in Flutter? Here's the short version, okay? There is, I will look it up here in a moment, but there is an unofficial one person's opinion of a roadmap, and they're pretty clear that it's nothing official, but I think it looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. But the bigger thing too, then rather than learning a list of things, even if you're given a good logical sequence, what really makes you understand Flutter is finding the stupid tricks, running into things that just have you beating your head on the desk. Now, I'll tell you one right now. When you are doing tests in Flutter, and you are trying to double check to see if your functions are being called properly, and you do an on pressed and await, and then you expect, because this is the way it works. You build your UI, and then you say, I press the button, and then you have an await so that it waits for a little bit of time and make sure the function executes, and then you check to see that the results are what you expect. And the fact is that you do on pressed, and you check it, and no, it's not there. The function is not getting called. And you're like, oh no, there's something wrong with my code. And you beat your head on it, And about an hour and a half later, somebody comes up and says, oh, by the way, your function gets called on release, which means you can't use on pressed because all it's doing is pressing and staying. You need to use on tap, which taps and releases. Okay. And of course, as soon as you change on press to on tap, magic, it works. This is what makes you a better Flutter developer. It's all those dumb things. And unfortunately, the only way to really become really good at anything is through a little bit of aggravation, frustration, and pain. I wish it was a different way. But
I watched Simon make a rookie mistake and even admitted it the other day. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Simon's a smart guy. For him to make a rookie mistake, wow! Yeah, I feel better.
That happens.
I feel better.
All right. So, state management. Wow, we've been going almost a half an hour on that stuff. So let's get into it.
Sure.
State management. This is aimed at beginners mainly. We are looking at putting together a state management roundup, which is going to be really in depth. I'm going to try to pull together as many of the creators of state management as possible. So if it's worth knowing, hopefully we're going to have the creator of it there. And I will be reaching out to everyone. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, please remember in Flutter, we have a lot of people coming in from the world of .NET. We have people coming in from, from web development and things like that. So a lot of these folks don't understand state management. If you are an experienced Android or iOS dev, and if you need this talk, time to go back to school because you should know this stuff. But maybe you don't know about how it's approached in Flutter. So first of all, state management. Let's get into what it is. But before we do this,
can I do the overview? I want to do the overview for what is state management because I worked it out.
Well, actually, before we get on to that, though, Randall,
yeah,
we're not alone.
I know, but I was going to do that.
Okay, so that's,
came on, but
it's one of those science fiction things. You are not alone.
No, okay.
Right, Thomas?
Hi.
Hey.
Great to be with you.
Yes.
Hey, nice to have you here.
You look
Nice
familiar.
to have you here. Let me see. Does that look? Oh, yes, that looks much better.
Now I got more space. More space.
Yeah.
Stretch. And you can see the whole 503 now. This is nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I have my virtual background because I don't want that you see my laundry behind. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tomek, click the link and get in here, Tomek.
But the funny thing is, Scott, when you say when you said it was about state management, is something I always tell people. Before I got into Flutter, I had never heard this term state management. I was doing Xamarin before, Xamarin Forms, and there we were just talking about, okay, how do we synchronize our data in our model so that it is displayed in the UI and other way around? Yeah, and we didn't use this term and didn't have 10,000 different ways to do it. So it is really a little bit.
Let me say one thing, that I had this conversation with some folks from the Flutter team, and they agreed with me, but state management is one of those terms that has come to mean something to the community, to the whole world that's developing. And the problem is, it's one of those things that the words state management are the wrong words. State management, you would think, is how you manage the state of things. Like if you have a car class, are the doors open or closed? Are the tires flat or inflated? That's the state. But state management is not how you manage that. That's your logic. Okay. What we call state management would probably be better called state propagation, which means anytime something changes, you have to notify everything that needs to know about that change.
Well,
that's what we actually call state management.
That's a part of it. I had a lot of good success with breaking it down as two primary things. State management is responsible for the ability to rendezvous to find your data. Where is your data? How do you get access to it? If it's not from your constructor or it's not from a callback, how do you find your data? How do you and your data get together from a given view or whatever? So that's one. That's the one important part of it. The second part is what you were talking about, Scott. How do you get notified when that changes if you are dependent on the current value and being known when it changes? So it's those two things. It all breaks down always, and all these different state management packages, they have ways to do each of those. And that's really what differentiates.
Let me play the noob for a minute.
Actually,
I'm good at this.
There's still the third part missing. It has also to be able the other way around to bring the data from bring data that is from user input back into your model.
Yes.
So it is really both ways.
Back to your car.
Yeah.
Basically, the information.
Exactly.
Cool.
I think, Thomas, what you mean is, like, if you hit a button because you want to open the car door, now you have to get that signal to the car.
Yeah.
So that the door opens.
For example, if you take the classic block pattern, you have this mechanism. How does an event from a button is passed over streams into into your model? Yeah. So this is also so it's both ways. Updating the UI when the data changes, and how do I from UI update my data?
So, as a noob who's never done anything like this, I will turn around and say, well, why do I have to have everything somewhere else? And why don't I just, have my data right there in the same file with my user interface?
Me or you?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm. This is one of the questions. It's really a great question because, to be fair, we are writing apps which have a pretty limited life space, I would say. Yeah. Right. So in many cases, and this is something a lot of people will beat me for this, but if I have a one-page app, one-page web app, for example, I can just use a global variable. This is pretty this is pretty bold here, but why should I start wiring up some state management solution if I have just one object that I want to observe? Yeah, put it in a variable. Done. There is a lot of this whole thing that we have combined here with things like the dependency injection and all this. There's a lot of theoretical work was put in there, which is not always the best thing to get to your goal, I would say. Yeah. So it depends. If it's something small that you throw away, don't waste time about it. Yeah. If it's something that you say, yeah, okay, I will need this later on. I have two things that why I want to handle it differently. One is it is nice to be able to switch out implementation for services or something like this, depending on the mode of your app, for example.
Okay. And, now you just said that, and every web developer listening said, "What is he talking about?"
Oh yeah. This is one of the. This is services mean something different for a lot of people. For me, a service inside an app is this level or these objects that are the boundary to my outside world. So they allow my app easy access to hardware sensors. They allow me easy access to databases or to an outside REST API. But it's really just this point where you get from inside your app to outside your app. This is the service. A service should not do anything on its own, I would say. But you have to be able to access this. And if you get there, then okay, you could still go with your global variable, but you have to start thinking of, okay, then I should use some abstract base class that I can have different implementations, for example. And if you are already there, then it might make sense to use some container solution, some service locator or something like this to make it even easier to handle this.
Okay. We're getting a little bit deep, but actually one of the things I was kind of leaning towards is if we put our code in with our UI and we're on page 1, what happens when we go to page 2?
Yeah, definitely.
Because all that's gone. Do we recreate it? And if we recreate it, how do we know what changes happened on page 1?
Yep.
I mean, do we just pass them straight over? Mm-hmm. But that means now we have 2 different cars that are supposedly the same thing, maybe.
And we have to pass it back eventually, possibly.
Well, and also, what happens if there are 2 versions of it on the screen at the same time?
Yep.
And you change one.
Yeah. I also want to add.
Not change?
Yeah, I want to also add that in what you were just saying, you talked about a global variable. Well, the problem about a global variable is it handles the rendezvous problem. You know, where do I find my data? But it doesn't handle the notification problem. A variable, when it's changed, doesn't tell a soul. It just changes in the dark of the night.
Okay.
You could have a notification there.
Okay, you could, for example, just use a change notifier as global variable. Then you would be fine. Yeah. The most basic or most basic pragmatic way, to do something like this.
Of course, now everybody doesn't know what a change notifier is, but let's not dig into the weeds. We're actually just talking about state management as a concept.
I think in a way, the stateful widget, or the thing that there is something like a stateful widget is partly a curse. Because it leads exactly that people think, okay, I stuffed my app, my data of my app, my state of my, I stuff them into my state, and I'm done. And this might make sense. For example, if I have a form. I typically leave all the state of this form inside the state object until the form is finished, and then I transmit it, for example. But to put your whole all the state of your whole app inside a state, then you get a problem that you said. What is when this widget vanishes? Yeah, and how do I deal it? Do I pass it around? What do I do it with this? So it's split. And the other aspects, I think that's the even more important, or another important aspect is when it's inside this state object. It's hard to use to write unit tests for this. Because then I need to ramp up a widget test to test my business object if it's in the state, yeah.
And if it's got a button you don't want to use on press,
exactly.
Going back to actually, I'm sorry. I want to wrap up something from before we forget. Mm-hmm. That's all. We did happen to mention, a learning path. Mm-hmm. And also, gentleman is asking, where do I find good tutorials? I'm being serious. Google. Now, the vast majority of tutorials you're going to come up with are going to be on YouTube or on Medium, but there are a lot of them elsewhere. And the only way that you find them all really is Google. Now, the bigger question is, how do I know what to search for?
And which is
that
the good
can be
ones.
A bigger problem. Okay.
And which are the good ones?
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different question. Yeah. The highly subjective roadmap to learn Flutter. This is really actually quite good. So GitHub, I'm not even going to try. But the Flutter roadmap right there, it really, really is quite good. It walks people through all sorts of things.
Can you throw the link in the comments?
Well,
people can click on it?
I can do that too. I'm actually doing it right now.
There we go.
But yeah, it walks you through the Dart environment, basic widgets, persistence, networking, architecture, database, and it walks through in a logical sequence, which is what a lot of beginners really, really need. So here it comes.
I would also caution, while Scott's typing, I would also caution that you only look at Flutter videos that are either completely highly recommended by lots and lots of people, or something that was produced in the last 6 months to a year.
Yes.
Flutter has moved so fast
in
the last few years that it just
try to make sure you get something in the last 6 months. If you can't, then go through the last year.
Yeah.
You've got to understand, you're going to run into tutorials that go back to Dart 1. They're almost useless. Okay, because that's back when Dart was using loose typing. No one's done that in a long time.
Loose typing, I like that.
Now we're doing null safety, which is a whole nother thing. And null safety is really being adopted now for newer apps, but a lot of the older tutorials don't have it yet.
Right.
And that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wanted to make sure that we get that out there.
Sure.
That is something that you're going to want to be able to have so that you have an organized path for your learning in Flutter.
If you, to come from the other side, if you are an experienced coder, but not to mobile or not to Flutter, but you have coding experience, you can also choose the way that I did when I started. I just did the getting started tutorial, which is really good. On the Flutter Dev website, it shows you already all the most important stuff that you need, and the layout tutorial. And with these two things, you are already. And if you have experience for coding from other areas, then you are already ready to go. And I think many people try first to watch a lot of videos. I say, just do this step-by-step tutorials. Yeah. And there you learn how is I think I hope they still have the same one with the favorite hearts that you can select and deselect, and there you learn what is reactive, how does reactive updating of your UI works, what is
that
this?
That one was by Andrew Brogdon, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So this is and this is a great resource. Yeah, for Dart, I really can only say there's this really incredible Dart beginner course by Andrea on Udemy, which is regularly.
Andrea just in general puts out a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
You'll see him, Andrea Bizzotto.
Yeah, and it's
fantastic.
regularly on sale for $9 or $15, and it's worth every cent. Yeah,
Yes.
If you want to learn the language, really, this is, in my opinion, currently the best, one of the best courses that you can get in this area.
His stuff really is great, and he teaches you the little tricks too, the things that you would run into and have problems with. Anyway, getting back on topic, state management. So basically, what we're looking at here then is we want to have our thing in one place, and then be able to refer to it from everywhere else, right?
Yep.
Okay, so now, but we've got our thing in one place, and it changes, and like Randall said, you reach in and you change it. Fine, it changed. Then what?
Yep. How does the UI know that it has to update?
Randall, then what?
Well, we look for a solution like the one Thomas created.
Yeah, possibly. But actually, maybe at this point, it's interesting how I came to write Get It at all. Because when I wrote Get It, there were only I think Redux and was the only other package, and also the block package didn't exist then, and we had
scope model. Redux and scope model, which means there was Brian Egan and Brian Egan.
Yeah, actually, no, even scope model wasn't there at the very beginning. We only had inherited widgets. Yeah, so yeah. So I came from Windows, and I looked at all this stuff, and I said, okay, the idea of inherited widgets that I am able to put some data in, or I can connect some data at some node in my widget tree, and then I can, from other places in the tree, I can easily access it. It's not bad. It's a thing. My problem was that I wasn't able to. I could use it this way, but I didn't manage that it automatically updated my UI when my data changed. And I discussed at this time with Brian, and he had also problems to really get this working. And so my thinking was, okay, I knew this in the .NET world, I had a service locator called Splat, which I really loved. So I thought, okay, let's port this. And the other thing was, Dart has streams, and there's a stream builder. So I had basically my very first state management solution together. Yeah. So put an object with a stream property inside a service locator, and then in the UI use a stream builder to update UI when the data changes. This was the basic thing how I got started with this. And
nice. Now, just to let newer people know, okay, Redux is something that came from React. It is a perfectly good state management solution, but in Flutter we kind of look at the amount of work to put together a system to handle your state versus how much state and how much app there is. And Redux really is a fantastic way to handle really large apps with a lot going on. But for the vast majority of things, even Brian Egan wrote it and maintains it. Even he says, for the vast majority of situations, Redux is massive overkill. So, but then there was inherited widget. Here's the most important thing to understand about inherited widget. Okay. If you understand, no explanation is necessary. If you don't understand, no explanation can help.
Yeah, it's really one of this weird things, and the biggest one of the biggest drawbacks of inherited widgets and of every solution that is built on top of it is that you are bound to have the build context around if you need it.
Yeah. And that's an interesting one that so many solutions deal with. And I'm going to, Mark, I know inherited widget is not bad, but the problem is it is confusing to a lot of people. Okay, here's the thing. Inherited widget is one of those things that some people's brains work in a way that you look at it and it makes perfect sense. Other people look at it and it's this alien thing that walks on the ceiling. And if you're in the second group, there seems to be no amount of explaining anyone can do to get you to understand it. And folks, I've been doing Flutter since September 2017. I still don't understand it. Okay? It's that crazy.
Yeah.
Now, I know other people who have looked at it for 5 minutes and it was the most natural thing in the world.
Yep.
It's just, you do or you don't.
I think, for example, Remy is one of the master of inherited widgets, yeah?
Yeah.
Because he uses the underlying mechanics to get all his packages working. Where I say, I really admire him for this. And I said, okay, but it's just not my cup of tea to go down this way. There has to be the idea. Let's put it. If you use any solution that is bound to the build context, it has one advantage. That is typically that you can override it's with a new object higher or further down your widget tree, and you want to have a different behavior. Yeah, then you can then it is that's an advantage. I'm
a web developer.
Oh, okay.
What's context?
Yeah. But
what's context?
Yeah, what's context? Honestly, this is one of the things that everyone is wondering.
Inherited widget, monad, context.
The thing is, every build method of your widget gets a context passed in. And you have to know that you have typically, if you want to create any widget, you have to pass this widget further up.
Right. Let's back up a hair. We're going to come right back to this, Thomas. You're going in a good path. But context. All right. The simplest way I have ever been able to explain this. Shut up, Raph. Raph just put in the chat that monads are cool. Anyway. This is what happens when your friends are in the audience. Context. The easiest way I've been able to explain this to people is that context is literally a snapshot in time of an instant and what is the state of all things. And I mean all things. Your build context tells you exactly the position of everything on the screen. It tells you how many pixels high your screen is, how many pixels wide. It tells you whether or not the accessibility, okay, whether or not things for the blind, for the deaf have been enabled. It will tell you this. It tells you if the phone's got vibrate enabled. It will tell you everything. Okay, the context is where you find every single piece of information about every single thing that is available, and you are building your widget within that, because it's impossible to build a screen without knowing the size of the screen. It's impossible to display text correctly if you don't know whether or not the user has increased the size of the font because they have trouble seeing. You need to know all of these things, and this is your context. that you're building within. Therefore, it is a build context. And Thomas, I'm going to pass this right back to you again. So you need to have, as you were just saying, you need to have this build context passed in when you have a build method to build a widget. Commas go in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Actually, I would in most cases that's really the good thing. You don't have to worry too much what the context is under the hood. So in 90% of your lifetime as a Flutter developer, you just will accept it that it is this part that keeps all moving pieces together in the UI. All moving Flutter pieces are glued together by your build context. So, one of the interesting things is that the build context build context offers a function that allows us to look up inherited widgets further up the tree. Just think, computer scientists are crazy. Widgets grow down. Trees grow down. Yeah, the root is up there, and we grow down. Yeah, that's for some people.
That's the way everybody draws it, and they call it deeper into the tree. If you really want to think of it the other way around, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. So it allows.
They should have called it roots.
Yeah.
Instead of branches.
Yeah. The nice thing is that under the hood of the inherited widgets is it's basically a map of a type and an object that you can register with this. And
this is not a roadmap that you can see lines on. A map in Dart, number one, is the same thing as a dictionary in C# and in a lot of other languages.
Yep.
Also, if you don't have the background to know what any of that is, a map is basically a table with 2 columns. Okay. The one on the left, your left, is the keys. These have to be unique. Okay. So basically, this is a catalog. Now, you can make your keys numbers. You can make your keys strings. You could make your keys entire objects if you really wanted to. Okay. That can get a little bit weird, but you can do it. Okay. The hashing function will work. And the hashing function is what actually comes up with the real name of the key. And it makes the lookup to find the data really, really, really fast. And then the second column in your map is your information. So when Thomas is talking about creating a map, that's what he's talking about creating.
Exactly.
And like I said, we've got to worry about this because some people don't know what a callback is. Some people on the other side of the spectrum who are great with servers have no idea what an aspect ratio is.
Yep, definitely. So a map really just allows us to throw stuff in with any stuff into a container with key, and if I have the key, I can anytime get back my stuff that I've thrown in. So it's and the nice thing is about maps is that they are really fast because they use hashing. So this is one of the important things that you don't. They are much faster than if you have just one big list of something. And inherited widgets, they have such a map, or they implement such a map under the hood that allows us over the context to access values by passing in the key and get the object then there. And
get the value back out.
And the nice thing is that this was one of the things that I misunderstood at the beginning when I started there. If I go further down the tree and I'm levels down and I need my object that is defined in the inherited widget up there, it's not that now that it has now to step all the way up there. No, every new widget, this map of objects is passed along. So actually the lookup is really it doesn't depend. It's always fast. It's always as fast.
So you're not passing the entire object down. You're just passing the map.
Exactly.
And then if your lower widget needs something, it looks it up on the map and goes and fetches it directly.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is very different. The problem that this is solving, folks, in the very, very beginning, early on, if you really wanted to get information down to, say, a piece of text, okay, so say you create a screen, we'll call that, we have the page, then we have the scaffold. Inside the scaffold, we have a container. Inside the container, we have a column. Inside the column, we have another container. Inside that, we have the text. So let's say that what we want for the text is all the way up the top. You got two choices. You can pass it down through every single one of the widgets on the way down. And if you can't tell by the way I'm saying that, no, that's bad. Don't do that. Or you can use something like this, and the most purist, with no packages, writing it the hard way, okay, in the deep down nitty gritty, is to do it with inherited widgets straight up. A lot of these other packages are using inherited widget, but making it easier for you and easier and easier. So I want to touch on a couple things real quick. One that's very important, and we're seeing a lot, and Randall, I see, is doing as usual, where he's answering questions by typing instead of talking. And
well, you were talking about great stuff over there. I didn't want to interrupt that.
So there are two things going on, and I'm going to jump in on this little discussion that Tomek is also part of here too. But let's touch on the first one first. Flutter 2 is not what is causing you to have to refactor a bunch of your code. Okay. People say, well, I changed to Flutter 2 and now I have to rewrite all this stuff and I have all these. Flutter 2's got nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Flutter 2 is changing your flat button to a text button. It's changing your raised button to an elevated button. It's throwing a bunch of other stuff in under the hood. It did not break anything.
And none of those changes are breaking. They're just deprecated now. Like, you get warnings.
Yeah, they may have deprecated some stuff, but all you're going to get is a warning.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to explain to you a better way to do it.
Yep.
Now, what did happen? Okay, because you're right. You're running into these errors, but don't confuse Flutter 2 with Dart 2.12. Because remember, Dart is the language, Flutter is the framework.
Yep.
So Dart 2.12 is that marker where if you make that your minimum SDK, all your code has to be null safe.
Yep.
Period. So, and also, if you're working with packages that are null safe, it might not like the rest of your code if it isn't. So if you're running into these things where, it's forcing me to be null safe, either you've set your minimum to 2.12, or you're working with a package that was rewritten to be null safe. Okay,
Yep.
one or the other. Now, you may want to specify a certain version of the package that was pre-null safety, or just upgrade your code to null safety, which the second one is better. But if you're in a pinch and need to do the first one, I won't judge you. I guess. Please stop posting saying that Flutter 2 broke your app. It absolutely did not.
Hmm. Actually, I think we could make a whole Humpday on null safety. If you have you already?
I think
we've done 2 or 3.
Kevin. Yeah, we've had Kevin on here.
Yeah. We've had presentations about null safety. I heard one last night.
So, all right, another one real quick. Tomek is trying to help some folks out about web apps were used in Flutter 1 before. How is web support introduced more efficiently in Flutter 2? Well,
it's just constantly getting better. Yeah.
Well, but what I'm wondering is, are they actually talking about Dart web apps from way back in the day?
I don't,
because Flutter Web was not released really under Flutter 1. It was not. Flutter 2 is when they said it was production. Everything else
it wasn't available with 1.0 at all.
No, in Flutter 1, it was available on the dev channel.
It was beta.
Yeah, on my side. I remember it was when 1.0 was announced, it was was shown as a teaser in London.
Right.
Oh no, if it was 1.0, yeah, we couldn't even access it at 1.0.
Exactly. It wasn't even on master or in dev. It was really just a teaser to say,
Right.
oh look, this will come somewhere, yeah. Yeah.
But
Right. But
probably
like from 1.12 and stuff like that, it wasn't, they said it wasn't ready.
Yep.
Okay, so don't judge it by when it wasn't ready to when it actually came out in Flutter 2.
And I'm going to get in trouble for this, I'm sure, but that's okay. I have a few brownie points in my wallet, so it shouldn't be bad. Flutter 2.0 was more of a marketing number than anything else. There wasn't any radical changes in Flutter, except a few switches were flipped differently. There was the Dart 2.10 became 2.12 as part of the packaging, but that's not a breaking change because unless you change your pub spec, you're still running in legacy mode, and it all works just fine anyway. It's the people that are going in and
2.0.7 is 2.0.7 is usually the minimum, right? Unless you change it manually.
But I've used there were Dart changes all the way up to 2.10, so that's what I like to tell people to set it to.
I think Tomic put it pretty good in his comment right there. The 2.0 was
just the last one.
Yep.
Yeah, it was always stable before 2.0. But they didn't have tests. Yeah, there you go. It's up on the screen.
Yeah,
exactly.
They bumped the version. I mean, Google's very, very, very conservative. You have to remember, Flutter was used for production apps before it was in alpha. Very Good Ventures was using it when they created the Hamilton app, and that was pre-alpha. And if that's not enough, Alibaba in China created the catalog portion of their app. And if you don't know about Alibaba, let's just say Alibaba is the one company that Amazon is scared of. All right. They are the Chinese version of Amazon, and they're bigger.
Yep.
And their catalog is in Flutter, and they bet on Flutter way back early alpha, maybe even while it was still called Sky.
Yep.
I'm not sure. But okay, so getting back to state management, and speak of the devil, I guess Tomic got tired of typing and would rather be here where he can just say his answer. So welcome, Tomic.
Hey!
Long time no see.
Yes.
And Scott, you're exactly right. This was exactly like, oh my God, like I'm tired of typing. And by the way, Randall,
yes,
I was explaining this with the Flutter that again it was ready already, and then you said it's a marketing plot. Then I wanted to say like yes, exactly, this is a marketing plot, and then you said like Tomic is saying also like right. Okay, so
yeah,
we are on the same playing field.
Speaking of getting the term, speaking of the term, remember it is not Flutter 2.0. It is Flutter 2. I'm not sure where that came from, but that's it.
There's a 2.2 out already, and 2.3 just came out the other day. So I would have said that was 2.0.
Just trust me, Randall. Don't do it.
Don't
do it.
I'm already going to get in trouble for my other thing that
Turn
I said
away
about
from
it being
the
a
light.
marketing term, So yeah. It's whatever they had available by 3.3. That's really all Flutter 2.0 was.
Folks, if you're really trying to lean toward, if you're wondering about us getting back to state management, we are working on that. But what's happening is we're reacting to the YouTube comments. So especially if you're watching the video later and wondering what on earth we're doing, these are questions people are asking, and that this is Humpday Q&A.
Yeah.
So okay, let's see
Just
here.
for you.
State management approaches. So they have a number of different packages out there, but I'd like to talk about a couple things that are not in packages. I know some people, I won't say their name, but it sounds like Whisperer. Anyway, they really don't use packages. And you don't have to use packages, and you don't have to use inherited widget. Okay, there are other ways to do this. you can use something called find ancestor state of type. And what it is you make your MyApp stateful, and then you have types within that are for your models. And your find ancestor state of type is what you use in a very similar way that you would use provider or scoped model. And it gives access further down, and it's easier to use than inherited widget. Now, what would you do with that? Your models actually have change notifier in them. So when you make a change, then you call something called notify listeners, which goes out. And all of this really, if you've been in engineering for a while, yeah, it's the observer pattern. No kidding. Okay, yes, that's what this is. We're talking about a bunch of different ways to implement the observer pattern. So another interesting one, though, once you can propagate this throughout your tree, is what I liked for a while was value notifier and value listenable builder. Now, an interesting thing was pointed out to me, though. We'll go over that in a minute, but there's a better version, because you can now use a change notifier with not a selector widget. You can use it with a select function, which makes it operate exactly like a value notifiable listener. Value notifier listener.
Where are you at the moment? I now lost you.
I'll be there in a moment. But a value notifier is inside your class. So let's say you have a car. You have a value notifier of type color.
Yep.
So you don't have a color of yellow. You have a value notifier, and the value in it is yellow.
Yep.
Now, this requires some more boilerplate. So the tires, you have a value notifier of Boolean, tires flat, tires bald, tires whatever. Engine is running. Value notifier of type Boolean.
Yep.
And then you have value listenable builder, which gets notified from your ancestor state of type. And it will rebuild automatically anytime that individual variable changes.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing. You can do this without the boilerplate. Because what you do is, you know how you can do provider of context, right?
Wait, but then you are already using the package.
Well, is select in the package?
It's part of provider. Without provider, select doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything. Okay. Well, I got
and also to make a little note, this idea to use get type. What's the name again from the
find ancestor state of type. I will
find ancestor state of type. Actually, what you're doing there, if you use this and you have your values somewhere in the state, you're more or less reinventing inherited widget. Because
this is a lot easier to use.
No. If you because this was the thing that how I started when I started use an inherited widget and put in it properties that are change or value notifiers. Then you use the inherited widget mechanism only for looking up your object and for nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see here. See, this is
what happened to.
Show us the code.
So let me see here. I have way too many tabs. Way too many tabs. Let me
They're
see.
Free. They're free. Take 100.
Yeah. 133.
No, I was joking. I
wasn't.
No.
While you, Scott, while you are searching, I would just give one reply to this answer. What is the effective way to become a Flutter developer for a non-programmer? I think one of the best things that you can do is find a problem that you want to solve where you want your own app for. No, just for you, yeah, because this will give you a goal where you want to head. It's one of the most difficult things for a non-programmer to start coding without a clear goal. Why do I want to do this? Find and apps are great in this case. It's just really one of the amazing things of mobile development, that there are so many little things for yourself. I want to have an app that to remember which books have I read already, or which my friend has a shop and he needs some problem. Just something. Don't think about I have to publish this on the store. No, just find something that you really would like to have, and then start learning the very, very little basics to say, okay, you need to learn Dart. And Dart is a good programming language to start. Definitely, it's one of the nicest programming languages to start at the moment, and go step by step into Flutter. And there are really great courses, great resources out for it. But
and
really
did you see that roadmap?
I think he hasn't. Tamil reads.
Let me grab that again.
Oh, we lost Tomek.
Yes, we did. I'm sure he'll be back. And one other thing too is, from what Thomas is talking about, just pick something that you would use in your life. Now, one of the things for me, one of the funny things is we had this situation where we all hung out in Zoom together and we wanted to get a hold of each other. So it was like, I have a question, and if this person was here, I'd be able to get an answer right away. So we were joking around about creating a bat signal. Make our own little app, and it's like, and then all this, use a notification, and the other person's phone puts up a bat signal or something. It means come to Zoom, you're needed. Okay, I'm not sure. Is YouTube down? I'm getting that question through a private channel right now.
It seems to be up for me. I just was there.
It also I see the chat run. Wait, listen. No, it's in Germany. It's running.
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe just
in
Germany.
Was asking if it's down.
I want to add to that.
Another one, though. I'm sorry. Another one would be a shopping list.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yep. To
build your own, just to learn.
Yep.
The follow-on question typically to that, though, is, well, I already know some programming. How do I get into Dart? How do I understand about Dart? And there's this wonderful website that's existed for years, maybe decades, called rosettacode.org. Not the other ones, not the language guys. It's rosettacode.org. And I'll paste that in the chat channel in a second. It has tens of thousands of implementations in almost every known language.
Mm-hmm.
And Dart is one of the languages. So in other words, if you're already a C++ programmer or already a JavaScript programmer, you can go up there and see JavaScript implementation for a particular task. The tasks are well organized. And then you can go, and most of the time there'll be a Dart solution there. And if there isn't one, you can add it. It's all a big wiki. It's an amazing site, absolutely amazing site. I remember early on when I was first studying Dart, I would add answers to that site. So I was one of the first few people actually populating the Dart channel. Yeah, good site, rosettacode.org.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect.
And rosettacode.org, let me change that, because rosettacode.org will take you to that other page. So you don't need to type all that out.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right. You have to be careful how you search for that, because otherwise you end up in those language translation sites.
Right, which is Rosetta Stone.
You see their name. Come on. Just the other sites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that one. Okay, so back to state management.
Sure.
So that's actually under provider now. It is a easier and actually better way to do the same thing that Value Notifier and Value Listenable Builder are doing. Mm-hmm. So if you're using provider, you can use the select function, and you select.of, I believe, and you use it in very much the same way that you would use provider.of.
Can we talk about my favorite one now? We're almost there, I think, right?
No,
We're talking
no, we
about
can.
Provider. We're talking about Provider. Why don't we talk about its heir apparent, also done by Remy?
Oh, you know what? Don't forget also that we're looking at trying to put together a whole roundup and hopefully going to get everyone on.
Sure.
So yeah, we don't want to dig too much into this. So hopefully we can get Remy here, and he will let you know. But yes, the how shall we say, the next in line for the throne, perhaps
the heir apparent. I just said that.
Well, but they are going to have to fight block for it. Felix.
No, I mean heir apparent.
I would say let's don't get down this road.
Yeah,
because there are enough reasons not to like both of them.
Yeah.
So this is really one of the things I think. Honestly, in a way, as much as a lot of people had, provider made it a way easier. But the fact that Google put it as official recommendation made also a lot of damage to other packages. It debriefed people to look further than provider. So this is really one of the things that I'm still. What I say, it wasn't really the optimal way to say.
Well, that's something I want to address at the roundup too, is because there is no single best state management. Okay, you can stop asking that right now. If you are trying to do something massive and huge, I think everyone here would say go Redux.
No,
you don't think so?
No.
For something huge?
No.
Let's discuss it
not.
in a second. Let's discuss it as well.
Although, wait a minute. Let's make this
arm
even
wrestle.
worse. Okay,
Let me
make it five-way.
No, it is a way.
Oh,
Hello.
hey,
hi.
Hey,
Sorry,
Raph.
I needed to join because Scott said that you should use Redux. So
Yeah. Scott, I agree with you in a way. It can be used for big apps, but not the other way. Conclusion round. If you have a big app, you need Redux.
You don't necessarily.
Nobody said so. Nobody said so.
No.
I think down.
I would certainly not use it for anything that wasn't big. Normally.
Actually, I had an interesting discussion just lately with one of the guys that of the Superlist team, or the new product that they built, and they use Redux. And I asked him, okay, what was your main reason to do it? Yeah. And it was interesting that he said, okay, we have a lot of people that are not so that are quite new to Flutter. And what Redux does, it gives a very, very clear guidance how things have to be structured. At the cost of
very, very firm,
a lot of ceremony and boilerplate. Yeah. But you have exactly, it is very, very clearly guided and structured.
Yeah.
So, okay, and Thomas, to that end, maybe we should just say hi to Ben. Hi, Ben.
Where's Ben?
Where's Ben?
No, Ben is a Superlist.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. Yeah, and Sally also.
Yes. And actually now Iro. And part-time, I believe, is Arahel.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, they've been heavily recruiting from the old school crew in Flutter.
Yeah. One of the biggest critiques that I have with Redux is the discoverability of your code. If I have a Redux app and I start at the UI and I want to find out which piece of code is executed when this button is pressed. I can't, it's almost impossible to find it by go to definition with your IDE, because you end up at some interface and you don't know, okay, where is it implemented? So,
well, and the other thing too is once you introduce middleware, you put in your middleware, yes, and that's fine. But when you're trying to follow the flow logically, that you call your action, okay, it goes into the reducer, does your thing, and like you're saying, Thomas, you click through it, and you click through it, and you click through it, and there's this whole massive section you're never going to run into by following the string, because it never takes you through the middleware. And for those of you who don't know Redux, here basically you have these things called actions and you have these things called reducers. And when you want to do something, you dispatch an action. Then that action goes to the reducer, and the reducer calls a function on your state, and all of your app state is kept in one place. It's called the store. The only things allowed to touch that are the reducers. Nothing else can touch it. Actions tell the reducers what to change and how, except if you have middleware, the middleware is automatically called before the rest of it. But when you're clicking through your code to try to follow the flow of what's happening as it goes, it never takes you to the middleware.
Yeah, and honestly, what I find one of the biggest confusing things is the naming in Redux, because reducer might be mathematically correct, yeah, a reduce function, but it doesn't help you if you look at code and you see some and you're new to Redux and you see a folder reducers, and you say, what is this doing there? What is a reducer? Yeah.
So can I be David's advocate? Because
you like Redux.
It has some functions. So
well, and actually,
they all have
a little bit, Tomek, for people who don't know Redux, what are the best things about Redux? And I'm talking about like one-way flow of data. You want to take that one?
So like I can so one flow one direction flow of data is block also has something similar. But first of all, I want to on a bigger picture. So why you can consider using Redux? Because first of all, I started using Redux like around 2.5 years ago, because at that point there was a provide, and what was the other thing that there were? And there was one more thing, and I didn't like it. I used a bit of Redux in the past, and Brian Egan, who is the who made the RX Dart, and is supporting the Redux for Flutter. Like I know him, I know he wouldn't screw developers over, so I thought it's safe enough. Again, it was in beta.
There went our Safe for Families rating.
Yeah. Oh my God! So can you like beep whenever I do a swear word?
Beep.
Too late. It's gone.
Beep, beep, beep.
So the best thing that I see, so I agree with Thomas that this following the path of what called this in Redux is hell if you are new to it. If you don't know how to structure your Redux architecture, you will shoot yourself not in the foot but in the stomach. So and like probably also in the head. So you should know what you are doing. So again, people who used to use Redux and are good with it, they will be super happy with it with Flutter. And one thing that I really like about Redux is it's event-based. So like everything you like dispatch.
Yeah, so event based, right?
Event based, like fetch me those. After it fetches, it would say,
or even message based, Tomek. Or it's not just event. It's actually a message is sent to the system.
Potatoes. What I'm wanting to say, it's super easy to add analytics. For example, if an application needs to be super heavy on analytics, usually you have like one event called fetch to-dos, and it fetches, and you just a bit extend it and add a middleware. And now if a product asks me, okay, can you, whenever this user clicks something, can you emit this special event? It takes me actually 30 seconds to do any analytics. And for example, if anything crashes in my application, of course it doesn't, then with every crash, I have like 5 last or 10 last events that happened. So I actually step by step see what people are using. So this Redux is really good. But I don't disagree what you guys said. It has also its downsides. There is boilerplate, but I don't see too much difference between Redux and Block. Block does it less eventy, but less boilerplate-y. That's why I also like Block.
But I see a lot of the principles are the same.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to say is Redux is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to set up. It can be a bit confusing at times until you really get used to it. But once you get used to it, it's not so bad. But here's the other thing, though. Okay, Redux is designed to be bulletproof. Okay, you will not mess up your code with a lot of regular. It eliminates a lot of potential for bugs. So there are a lot of other systems you use where you might make a mistake and introduce a bug that is impossible to introduce with Redux, because Redux is so strict. And that, I guess that's what I'm saying, is when you've got something that's big and confusing, you need that structure to prevent things from going sideways. So again, and as John is just saying in the chat, it's a preference. It's a matter of what you're comfortable with. And John has access to the chat link or to the StreamYard link. Hint, John, hint, come on in.
What I can say to it is that the big advantage of Redux is that you have your own state in any point and any place in your application. So
single source of truth.
Yeah. So you don't have problems like, okay, I'm in this screen and I need to check if user has done this, or this. It's very simple to to just get the state and check it. Where in, for example, Block, you need to provide your like the different place, maybe the different block to the same screen, not just one.
And Rafał, can I add one thing? Because when I started to do Flutter, like Redux with Flutter, I was worried that, oh my God, this entire state of the application in one object, it will be horrible on memory. It will be super slow. Now I'm 2.5 years in the application, more than 200 pages in the application, and still cannot see the impact. I'm not saying it's perfect to have it like this instead of like keeping like IDs in some store and then the clean architecture approach use like more strictly. But this is the one store is not a problem if some people are thinking that might be a problem, at least for like 200 pages application.
Yep. And something else too, we look at something and we think it's big. You have to remember Tolstoy. Okay, what Tolstoy wrote War and Peace, didn't he? That fits in 700 meg. So I'm sorry, no, 700K, less than a megabyte.
So that's quite a lot of difference.
Huge is not very big to a computer.
Actually, I think it's not about the size. What I, for example, like or dislike, if you have this in one big object, is that it makes finding things in your code more difficult. it does. You can use the part the part command in Dart, or the part statement that you can split your
Find in path.
huge
Find
part
in
and,
path.
No, part and part off, that you can split your huge class into multiple files, that you don't have this problem. But I really prefer the way that I have multiple smaller objects, classical object-oriented design approach that do very specific tasks in my business in my business layer.
Okay, and I mean, we're way down the rabbit hole. We're with Redux here. I'm hoping to get Brian Egan on for the state management roundup, so he will be fantastic for that.
Yeah.
Moving on a little bit here, and I see something. Now, I'm not sure if I misread what you said in chat, John, but they're talking about Riverpod and globals. So one that's an interesting subject. But let's back up a little bit here. Riverpod is an anagram for provider.
Yeah.
Right, because it's written by the same person. They're both written by Remy Rousselet. So Remy considers Riverpod to be the better provider. It fixes a lot of things that provider had problems with.
The error parameter.
And one of them was when you're working with provider, you can access everything just like inherited widget right down through the widget tree in the build context. The question is, though, what happens when you want to reach out to your logic that's not created within a build context? Do you pass the whole build context? Do you want to pass references to it? Do you want to pass the individual variables you care about? All of this stuff. So we turned around and Remy creates Riverpod that eliminates all of that, because now you can access your stuff from anywhere inside or outside of a tree. But
Actually,
that requires a global declaration.
Actually, one of the things that there are quite a lot of people that combine provider with Gedit. They use Gedit for everything that is not UI related, and provider for the UI related stuff. But actually, where from my point of view, you could also use only Gedit for everything. Yeah, this is
you're going to be on the roundup, Thomas. And if you haven't guessed, folks, Gedit is also another method of doing state management written by Thomas.
Exactly, and especially with I have to say, Gedit itself is a pure service locator. It implements this part that Randall says, how do I get my objects? And I'm a huge fan. I call it the Lego approach, like Lego bricks. I like a lot of packages that I can combine as I want, and don't have to take everything if I don't want to have it. So Gedit does the stuff with the location, and it has some really nice additional features that makes your life easier to organize and manage business objects. Yeah, so things like initialization of asynchronous objects and stuff like this. So. And I was for a long time really happy, because what I personally, as a user, always did, I just stuffed in objects that had a stream property, yeah, and or a value notifier, and then use a value listenable builder or a stream builder. And then some users reached out to me and said, hey, would it be possible to add some more state management to Gedit? And in the first moment, I wasn't really sure what they mean, but then I understood it, and I took a lot of inspiration from provider. I took a lot of inspiration from Flutter hooks, and created the Gedit mixin. And this duo, Gedit plus the Gedit mixin, makes it extremely easy and straightforward to do this job. Yeah. With almost no, with no boilerplate, really straightforward. and you are done. So yeah, with this, Gedit got actually finally got a full state management solution, the most basic one.
So, okay, a couple of things real quick. For one, John has once again pointed out something great. Code with Andrea. I mean, Andrea's got a lot of fantastic stuff.
Yep.
So that's on RiverPod. Mr. Reality is talking about the GetX creator. And yeah, we know what you're talking about with the claims. Believe me, we were in the middle of it. But that's actually not the reason. I've been asking around and I can't find anybody who's using it. So I want to get Johnny, who is the creator. I want to get him on here with the state management roundup with everybody else. So Johnny, if you're listening, yes, I do want you included in this. It's just none of us are really familiar with GetX. That's why we haven't really been talking about it. Nobody's got experience with it.
And also say to that, Code with Andrea, very good thing on it. I'm watching every single new video that I can find on this whole area. So I spend maybe 2 hours a night watching video on top of my 3 hours a day of patrolling everywhere.
Yep.
There have been 4, I believe, really, really good, longer than 10-minute RiverPod intros already. And I put in the chat room how to go find them. Just look for, more specifically, want to look for Flutter RiverPod tutorial in Google Video. And that will give you the YouTube search, I guess. That will give you some really, really great comprehensive ones, including one with Flutter hooks, which I was really amazed to see. So stuff is really, really coming along. And I include Flutter hooks in the, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm done.
I want to finish a thought, and actually I think someone else can finish that thought. But what you're pointing out with Flutter hooks, Remy has actually created hooks and was it state notifier and freezed and also RiverPod to work together as like, and it's not all as you have to use everything, but each of those solves a different problem or different sets of problems. And together he believes they're a complete solution. So that's another possibility. I do want to ask him about that, which bounces us back to RiverPod for a moment and back to globals, because to solve the problem of provider not being able to access things outside of the build context, one of the things Remy did was have globals declared. But each time you use it, the instance is local. And people look at that and they go, what? So it's a very interesting thing that does not run into the problems that using a global normally would. And if you're sitting there looking at your monitor going, what on earth is Scott talking about? That's what I'm talking about finishing my thought on this, because maybe I shouldn't finish it. Maybe we should find somebody who's got a twisted brain and understands the intricacies of this kind of stuff. And Randall, I'm sorry, your brain's not quite that twisted. It's pretty twisted. But maybe we need Simon.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Whoa, Simon, your audio.
Over my
audio
is it clipping?
Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very much clipping.
It's clipping and it sounds like your cable's loose.
And you're not tall enough. Just kidding. No. Try it now, maybe.
So anyway, while Simon tries to talk,
oh no,
no,
a tiny bit. But
it's
still clipping.
It sounds like a microphone jack is very dirty. Is what it sounds like. Try unplugging everything and plugging it all back in.
Yeah.
And restart your machine.
It turned it off and on again. Yes, turn it off and on again. Reinstall the OS. That'll do it.
Yeah, really.
I've heard Simon starts using Mac OS, so maybe that's the reason. Go back to Windows.
Nope, can't hear you at all.
I can't hear you at all now.
Oh, this is like a Zoom call where there's always somebody that says, Simon, you're muted.
Oh, no, we do that here.
Yeah.
In fact, no one's done it here yet, although I
Right.
guess Simon's trying to substitute for it.
Yes. Yes. Well,
So, okay.
Can I answer the RiverPod question while we're waiting for Simon to get back? Okay.
Sure. So what we were talking about was declaring something globally outside of your main, but accessing it locally.
I think the whole thought about it.
Well,
sorry, Thomas.
The thing is actually it wasn't so much the point that to be able to access things outside the build context, because there is actually another package from Remy that works together with State Notifier that allows you to access objects inside provider without the build context. Yeah, so there are ways also for this. His biggest thing that he wanted to fix with this, and he managed this. What can happen with provider, the same with Gedit, that if you forget to register your object inside provider or Gedit and you access it, you get an exception. Yeah, because you get a runtime error, and he wanted to make sure that that already at compile time, it is ensured that this can't happen.
Right,
and that's why he needs this global constants for it. In my opinion, I don't like the approach, because this sort of exceptions are really you find at the first run normally. This is because if your objects are not there, they will throw, your app won't work, and so it is really an I think it's in my opinion the design of a RiverPod is too much theoretic, as too much head heavy. I would say it's provider was easier to get started with. Yeah. And
on that same note, though, Thomas, if we're going to follow the method of doing things that way, I always thought of scoped model being a dumbed down provider. Scope model is very easy to use. And then provider kind of, and it's funny because Brian Egan was behind scope model.
Yeah.
And then Remy did provider, which is basically scope model with some power user features.
Yep.
And then RiverPod is like provider gone nuts.
Okay, let me finish.
Yeah,
this
but
thought.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I get
Randy, go ahead.
Okay, so here's the main difference between provider and RiverPod. When I talked at the beginning of the show, I talked about how now it's fuzzy again. It is. So when I talked at the beginning of the show, I talked that one of the two things, which now became one of the three things, that a state management system provides is the rendezvous. How do you find your data? How do you get to where it is? Provider uses position in the tree as well as a class name. Well, class names are all global, essentially. So you don't have a lot of variability with that. RiverPod rendezvous using the scope of a variable. That could be local, could be in the middle of a class, could be global. It doesn't have to be a global. It only has to be someplace that is a variable scope. And we all understand variable scope better than we understand walking up the tree with inherited provider, I'm pretty sure, because we've done variable scope for decades. Well, I have. So that, I think, is a huge difference. It means I don't have to worry about creating a very specific separate class to make sure that my provider doesn't get tripped up on when somebody else is looking for a provider that returns an int. I think that's an important point about the difference in provider and scope. Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a question if it's if it's really if RiverPod is really the makes everything really better than provider. I don't know. I didn't really get currently so far the point of it. There's a stress. I try to understand what's the
This is why we need to talk to Remy. Remy.
Yeah.
No.
We're gonna need to have you
I
on.
know that Remy has Remy is an extremely. He's probably much more clever than I am in these areas, and he has a lot of arguments for it. I just I'm not sure if it's the right way. It's if this decision to go this way.
But here's the thing, Thomas. That's one of the reasons for the state management roundup. There is no, as we like to joke about, there is no one true way, right? Because so whether or not it's the right way in which situation.
True. But I think it's interesting to see if the same author publishes an evolution of a package, and to have a look at it and say, okay, is this the right way? This package, this development he chooses, yeah, and I think this is something we will have to see how people use it on a broader range.
Well, yeah, we'll be taking a look at that for all the systems in the roundup. We were talking about that before, looking over a lot of the different data.
How do you plan to make the roundup? What's your idea of how you want to do it?
We were talking about that before. Sai, you want to jump in on this?
Jump in on what? Sorry. How are we going to do the roundup? Reach out to people, get them all on the one place. There you go.
And then?
Right, but I mean, we're also looking at, not just likes, but also open issues, contributors, the health of the code in general, all kinds of different things. Okay.
I'm not really clear how the what's the goal at this way, or what should be the outcome?
Sorry. This is more of an overview of state management. It's supposed to be more of an overview for beginners, maybe a little bit intermediate. Whereas I'm hoping to have the authors and maintainers on, so they can really dig in and can really talk about on a more advanced level why choices were made to do things the way that they were. And I think it would be really, really good to be able to have everybody here at the same time. Now, I'm hoping to have, Remy, because he's done Provider and RiverPod. I'd like to have you here for Get It. Johnny for GetX. I'd like to have Brian Egan for both Scope Model and Redux. And it would be really good because everybody's always like, well, what about this state management? What about that one? You know what? Let's put everybody on one show. And I don't want to.
I've got the perfect
say let them fight it out.
I know what it is. We start with a ring with a picture of a boxing ring with all the logos, and then we go ding ding fight.
Yeah, but on the other side, maybe we should give a chance to say, okay, show within 10 minutes how your package works.
Do like a little presentation for 5 minutes, and each person has 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and then everyone gets the knowledge gain from everyone.
Exactly. Yeah, because the thing is, it doesn't help. We can. I think we came to the point and say, good. Okay. We won't find out what is the best package. No, so discussion between the package authors are more or less more useless. Yeah, because we have different opinions, different philosophies behind.
And that's why I'm thinking if people say more of this is why I made the choices I did, everybody's going to have good reasons. And the thing is that when people are creating an app, they need to look at it and say, okay, does this way of approaching it work better, or does that way? And because, as I said, there is never any one solution. Just about everything has its place because just about everything was designed to deal with a situation better than anything that was available was already dealing with it.
Mhm.
Now, one thing that we were just mentioning, we've got a number of different ways we all communicate, and one of the back channel things was saying about regular Q&A, which we have been trying to slip in, and I'd like to take that for a moment, that idea, because someone's saying they don't understand navigation.
Ooh, but this is really,
watch my 3 talks on the subject.
but this is
Yeah,
this is really a
okay,
complete other.
but let's start with the simple. Okay, let's start with the simple. Number one, if you want to learn navigation, do not use Navigator 2.
To be fair, there is
Stick with one
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah.
There is a new router that someone's released, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. There's a really nice new package. I think it's from what's his name again?
I forgot his name.
I really like the approach because it was so that simple. How do you set everything up and use it? It is router.
Don't worry.
Go ahead and research it.
Yeah,
Is that Flutter maybe? Something
no,
like
no,
that.
no. It's from Tom. I think Tom. I've seen him already somewhere in my Twitter history.
Your audio's breaking up for me.
Too many faces. Yeah.
Me too.
No, but just I can only offer because currently I'm here. I could give you a short overview how Get It is done, yeah, but it is and when Remy comes up, he can give a short intro to Riverport or
Right. Things. Well, and there's another point being made in chat, which I think is perfect. I'm thinking about this as an overview of state management, whereas getting everybody together and about why they made the decisions, Ganesh, that's perfect. You know, that kind of a question, how do things scale, et cetera, that's going to be a much more advanced question. And how this is going to work depends on how things were approached. You know, the entire approach to building the system. So,
I think
I cut off every notification except that one.
That package is called Rootmaster, I think, by Tom Glider.
Yeah, exactly, Rootmaster. I really like this.
Yeah.
Oh, there's someone just asked, how do I make it sure that the Get It singleton is registered before accessing it? Yeah. Honestly, this is you have the only way to.
As I say, run it in the main method.
Yeah, exactly. You run your you run your setup in the main method, or and especially if you have, and this is one of the things a lot of people don't know that is supported. Get It has a mechanism if you have objects that take some time to be created that need async calls. Get It supports it that you register them asynchronously, and then you can call the already function, which gives you a future that you can wait on until everything is initialized. That you and from then on you are safe to access every object. Yeah, so this is very safely handled by this, and but it's really the thing you have to make sure that the things are registered before you use it. This is
The other problem I've come across, and it's something actually I wouldn't mind a little bit on these lines. I mean, I don't know if anyone's read the Flutter Fire. There's a link for the Rootmaster. The Flutter Fire documentation about initialization, it says you do await Firebase dot, I think it's initialize app. And you can do that in your main method. If you make your main method async, that's fine. But if there's an error whilst initializing your Firebase, that's it. Your app just crashes on the splash screen. It doesn't load any further. There's no way of displaying any errors or giving the user an option to install the next version or whatever it might be. So their idea on the documentation is to do it during a splash screen and use like a future builder, so that way you can handle the error results. And the same thing you can do with Get It, right? So you can initialize early on in the app process where you don't use those certain lazily loaded things, and then on your splash screen go fetch the lazy asynchronous thing, and then it will load,
Exactly.
and you'll get back the
Exactly.
call.
That's the exact thing. I have on the splash or startup screen somewhere is a future builder which will which will show a spinner as long as the future isn't completed. Yeah. So and this works really well. Yeah.
I think there's actually an interesting problem. I think I might do a video on this, and that is around splash screen versus app start versus log in and sign up and log out, and that whole area, because there's several ways of doing that. I think there's some ways you don't want to do it, put it that way.
And actually for this yeah, especially for this sign in, sign out, this was actually the reason why I added scopes to get it. For example, because I had exactly this problem that I wanted to say, oh, how do I make really sure if I log out that I get a completely new objects when I log in again, yeah, and that there's nothing around, yeah. And this lets to
so you're kind of scoping that. Is that the string key that you add?
No.
Okay.
Oh, you're not up to date. Gedit has an independent from the UI tree independent scope stack where you can push a new scope. You register your objects in and if you when a new scope is pushed and you register a new object, it is registered in the current scope.
Right. So it's like a sub-registry.
And you can immediately you can give the scopes names. So you can do a pop until you can pop a level of sound.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, your audio is going out.
Your audio is really bad.
Oh, okay.
No,
Better?
it's not your
It
microphone.
was like Bluetooth bad connection kind of deal.
Yeah.
Oh,
packet loss.
Packet loss. Yeah.
That's bad. Okay.
And just one thing while we've got this quick little break, we do want to be clear that we're talking about get it, not get X, because it'd be too easy for people to confuse the two. So you've been working with Get It for how long now? Jeez.
Yeah, you Get It is really one of the really old packages. It was the first thing I think 3.5 years ago. Yeah. I started. I wrote the first version of Get It, and since then it evolved. Yeah, and especially the scoping has really some nice applications. Yeah, that you can do with it, and nice. I think it's really one of the easy. Yeah, it is one of the easiest to approach packages in this.
Okay. Now I need to hand things off here. As I mentioned earlier, things are getting a little busy in Flutterville, and so as you can tell, Simon came in after he was finally able to escape some meetings, and it looks like I am going to get dragged into one here shortly. So I need to say, have fun, kids.
Well, we've been going for 2 hours. I think it's probably time to start wrapping it up anyway.
Okay. May I? There's one question that came to me. There's the thing is that if you
what's the question? I'll put it on.
Oh, the question is here. Is in register. If I register them in the main method, but get an error if a singleton tries to access another that is registered after it in the list. Yeah. You can avoid this by normally this only happens if you really have asynchronous initializations of objects. And the nice thing is that if I do a register singleton async, I can pass as another as one parameter that's called depends on. And there you can pass in which types have to be ready before this one gets initialized. And Get It does all this automatically for you. It solves this dependencies for you. You only have to tell them which object depends on which objects, and it will initialize them correctly.
There is actually a package, I forget the name, that someone's made that does code generation for Get It.
Yeah, injectable.
Injectable, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that kind of orders things and makes those relationships and does lazy loaders when you have a dual dependency, one on another on another.
Yeah.
It solves the diamond problem, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
The dependency injection for humans.
You wish.
I think
Actually, dependency injection is actually not really the right term in this case. What it makes is that you don't have to register manually the objects and get it. You just put attributes on your objects that you want to have registered, and then you can use them automatically afterward.
Well, before I put anything on screen, Thomas, do me a favor and double check that the one I just linked there for you is the right one.
Which one?
Check the chat.
Oh, the other chat.
Yeah, the 5th chat.
The other chat. Yes.
Guys, folks, we have Slack. We have Signal. We have a side chat for running the stream. We have.
Yep. This is
the right one.
That's not it, is it?
No, but
I don't think that's the one.
No.
Yes, no, maybe so.
No, look on pub. On pub, it's called injectable.
Okay.
I just looked at that, and it's we got an unidentified, but I think that's it. 26. Oh, they just submitted the fix for it. It hasn't gone through the pub doc system, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a new version coming in right now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the one. Injectable. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting that GitHub has one thing and Pub has another. That's not good.
What said the GitHub link was the wrong one. This one is the right one. That you the last one with, on Pub. The link to a different GitHub repo.
Huh.
Yeah, that's never fun when one thing is named one way in one place and somewhere else.
Yeah.
All the good words are taken, so that's always going to happen.
You know, that's funny. I was registering for this game one time, and after about 10 minutes of trying to find a unique username, I finally chose the last name left 2.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Somebody else already had the last name left.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like my Twitter handle here, Scottsdale 2017. I would have updated it, but domain squatters. What are you gonna do?
By the way, so this is you don't look like 4 years old, so you're joining then, right?
Has it really been 4 years?
That's when I got involved in Flutter. Anyway,
I know. I can't believe it. I just literally the same for me. I'm just like thinking about it going, oh, is it really that long ago now? Jesus.
Yeah, we got involved. What? We got into Flutter like 3 weeks apart.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yep. Well, this is all the ancient crew of
ancient.
Old guys.
Speak for yourself.
Well, there's one for you, folks. Everybody here was involved since Alpha.
The graybeards.
Or before.
All the graybeards.
Yep.
But not anymore.
All righty.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So do we have more we're answering now, or what are we doing here, sir?
I'm looking. I don't see anything else new. We have been going for 2 hours. The only other one I noticed, somebody was saying that they thought block was hard, and I think that's really something better answered. That's Felix, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I think the difference here is streams are hard.
That's streams. Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's about understanding the difference between setting up your stream, that is set up the pipeline, and then data passing through your stream, which are 2 totally different steps. And that's the thing you have to get your head around. So I think the answer to other people is say, go study RX materials, RX Java, RX Dart, whatever it is, read up about RX, and then that will give you the reactive stuff, and that will give you the answers you need to understand those 2 concepts. There's plenty of videos on the topic.
I have a really absolutely basic introduction to streams and RX on my blog.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. I remember reading that. That's like 3 years old.
But, yeah, it is pretty old, but it's still, I think, one of the best.
No, well, the streams haven't changed. I'm just saying that you've been doing this long enough. You were putting out content on this that long ago.
They actually did change.
Go on. What changed about them?
Like
refresh our memory.
Like RxDart.
Mm.
API has changed.
RxDart or streams in Dart.
RxDart.
Yeah, with the extension methods, they changed. They switched from observables to streams.
Yeah, RX did. Yeah. So that's really nice because I like the way that you can just use the. It's more close to the metal, right? Like.
Yep.
Mr. Reality, I'm just having fun with this, but look up one, and apparently you already did because you put a smiley face in.
There we go.
I tell you what I've been playing around with recently, and that is the collection package, not the built-in Dart collection one, but package collection, right? Mm. And all the added extension methods that brings, like the index mapping and plenty of other things. And I'm like, this needs to get into the main Dart framework. We need this now. And but the same thing goes with that. And I would mention this: the async package. You have Dart async, which is the built-in one, and there's package async. And the package async gives you lots and lots of streaming classes and extras to help with running streams and doing features and everything. Worth it looking at.
Yep. And then there's Dart collection and package collection, similar standoff. Although the as far as I understand, the Dart team is actually building all of those. That's not.
Yes, they are the
third
first party ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, at least one other question real quick. Good grief. Things are moving in the chat.
Yes.
When I think back end, I'm thinking your back end code in your app. But if you're talking about, all the different services Firebase offers,
there are a couple of other ones.
Yeah, there's AWS, there's Azure.
Yeah, but it's not just the main cloud providers. There's a couple of new players in the market.
I have actually a new favorite that I really like.
I think it's the one I'm thinking of. Go on.
It's nhost.io. It's a Swedish startup. They offer complete. Their whole infrastructure is completely based on open source packages.
What is it called?
nhost.io.
Can you type it in the chat? Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's written Pass. Pass got shut down. I don't know. Is it still? I don't think it's running anymore. They shut.
Yeah. Rafael already did it. What they do is they have a combined Postgres database, and on top Hashura or Ashura, I don't know how to pronounce it, and it's an automatic GraphQL package that creates automatically GraphQL and an automatic GraphQL interface based on your tables. And they also offer storage, authentication services, and now cloud functions. And the really nice thing is, or two nice things about this is, you can say where your data is located. So you can say, if you need to have it in Europe because of GDPR, you can say, I want to have it in Amsterdam and not in London. And the other thing is, this startup is still so small that you get an excellent support by the main programmers personally. And this is one of the things that you never get from Firestore or Firebase.
There's also another one.
This is what happens when there's more than one person or even more than two people who have the ability to change the things you see on screen, folks.
So there's also Superbase.io, which is the one that I was thinking of earlier.
Superbase also really interesting. It's also a really interesting thing because they really try to more or less replicate the API from Firebase, right?
Yeah. The thing is, the end of the day, for me personally, what I want to see is a decent open source solution, right?
Yeah.
So something that I really like, Sentry.io, their model, right? That's a Crashlytics sort of crash reporting capture. They do this model where it's like, it's open source. The developer is open source. You go see how it's made. You can help bug fix it, whatever you want. and you can go deploy it yourself on your own servers if you want to manage them.
Yep.
However, they also have a cloud-hosted solution where you pay them monthly, and you have an instant setup, instantly running. You don't have to manage it. They upgrade it. They manage it all for you. That is a really nice business model, and we don't have that with Firebase alternative. I have to look at these ones, but as far as I know, these are all closed source. What you want is an open source alternative that literally is a back-end alternative to Firestore. You can still use the same Firestore client library, and it just replaces the back-end, and it's open source, meaning that we can contribute, and you're not locked in. Yep. However, most of the time, people are just going to be willing to use the free package for very minimal, or pay the minimum amount, $10 a month, $30 a month, for a hosted solution for their app. And they're not locked in to something they have no control over. And if they, But
that's actually one of the reasons what I really like about the nhost approach, that actually the whole code itself is open source.
It is. I didn't know that. Okay.
And all the packages that they use are standard, are really battle tested open source packages that they use together. Yeah.
If I had the time, we could do one in Dart. I think a nice Dart backend that would be an instant drop in for Flutter would just be.
And I have honestly to say I was really surprised. They support GraphQL with subscriptions, and the update speed is so high. It is really you enter something in the database, and at the same moment on your Flutter web app that is connected, it is really pop. It's there.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on that one. That could just be because they don't have millions and millions of requests per second to deal with, right? Whereas Google do.
Yes, but on the other side, I think the way that the GraphQL the interface implements this does it just in a very good way.
There's quite a few alternatives, and that I've seen around that sort of monitoring of database that are really quite interesting. I would prefer it if there was the subscription API is separate and independent to the GraphQL API. I feel like there's room for them to improve that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
I really got to run right now, folks.
All right. I think we'll start wrapping it up. Let's wrap it up. All right.
Let me just share one last link.
One last thing.
Okay. So whatever you want, I'm going because
wrap.
Sorry, guys. Thanks.
If somebody wants to,
we're not ignoring you. But that's probably something that's going to require looking at your code. So you probably want to take it to Stack Overflow. I'm not sure we can just answer that abstractly.
Or Discord.
Extracting a segmented image that they got using TensorLite model.
This here is a project that is it's currently very easy to overview. Users get it and host as backend if you want to have a closer look how this works.
Cool.
Great example. A segmented image. That's an interesting one.
Is this
visual image?
I'm guessing maybe it's got segments in the image or something. I don't know.
What is this? Android has this image format. What is this again? This
9-patch.
9-patch. Is it this?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think it's that, because this is about TensorLite models, which is image processing. There is a package called Image, and the image package lets you do data processing over the pixels, so you could extract colors, you can do all sorts of fun things. Go look at that. I think that's your best option. Anyway, right, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Say goodbye. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see everyone soon.
See you online.
Bye.
See you online in all the normal places.
Bye.